Let's do it.
Hey everybody, do you see it live?
Yep, I think we're good to go now. I think it's on. Yep, we're good.
We're on. We're good.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Hey everybody, we want to welcome you to our COVID-19 update here, and we're looking at this from a legislative lens. And so we want you to start your watch parties and come on in, and we're gonna have a great conversation. Now, this is a duplicate of the one we had yesterday because we had some tech uh, issues that we're working around, and so we are going to duplicate our discussion from yesterday. And so we're going to be looking at this from a legislative lens and giving out some practical tips on some things that we need to be thinking about. So we're going to just pause right here. And Shamar, would you like to give them an introduction? Just say hello to everybody.
Hello, everyone. I pray that your Thursday is going well here on this May 7th. It is Deacon Shamari here, and I'm ready to get into this information.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're gonna get going here. So welcome everyone for joining us, and we're gonna come right into this thing here. I'm looking at the chat, so we got some questions. Good day, Rosh. Good day, Tristan. How are you? We got the family here. How are you all doing? I'm looking right at you now. I'm looking right at the lens. How are you? Listen, show me some love. If you can hear us and the sound is good, please show us some love. We're going to be looking at COVID-19 from a legislative lens, and we're going to be having a great conversation. So please, we have some questions that we'd like to ask, and we'd like to elevate your voice to our governor and to those that are working on the task force that she has assembled. So we'd like to elevate your voice at this time. So when we put up the questions, we want you to answer the questions. So I'm going to share my screen here, and then we're going to go from there. So again, we are looking at managing COVID-19 pandemic legislative lens. So let's start our watch parties and all those kinds of things. Let's get going here. Now, what is the pathway forward as the states begin to open back up? We need to be thinking about what is our path forward for you and your family or your community, your business, your church, your organization. So what's our pathway forward? So we want to keep our discussion moving forward, and our motto from here until we get out of this and we have good information and we have a vaccine and we know all the details, the motto is safety first. That is our motto, safety first. Okay. So again, I'm here and I'm joined with Deacon Shamari Tate, Pastor Holland here, and we're looking at COVID-19 from a legislative lens. So we have two questions that we'd like to ask you. And Shamari, would you like to lead off with the first question?
Yeah, so with the first question, what are you guys seeing as the greatest barriers to you and the communities around you or your congregants if you're a church leader? What are you seeing as barriers to staying safe right now? That is our first question. What are the barriers that you see right now to staying safe?
Yeah, so let's just say you are a community leader, activist, a pastor, an entrepreneur, small business, medium or large. What are you seeing as some of the greatest barriers to safety? What are you seeing as some of the greatest barriers to safety? Okay, so we want you to put that in the chat, and we want to hear from you. So we want this to be interactive. We're checking the comment section. So let's answer that first question. What are you seeing as the greatest barriers for your congregation or those in the community in terms of safety, staying safe right now? So please indulge us, and we want this to be interactive as possible. We know we're doing it on Facebook, but there is a comment section. And then the second question is, what have you been doing that seems to be helping? What are you doing personally? We need to share best practices, and so we can all learn from each other. And so again, the first question is, what are you seeing as the greatest barriers to safety right now? Okay, and so please, I'm going to ask you to lean in on this and be a leader. Help us compile a list so that we could take back and elevate that up, right? We want our voices, we want your voices, most importantly, to be heard and to be elevated. So this is not the season to lean out. We want you and invite you to lean in. So we're going to pause here and check that chat feature here and that comment section and see if anybody's brave enough to put some comments in. What are the greatest barriers to staying safe right now, whether it be a lack of resources, information, et cetera, et cetera? So these are the two questions that we want you to comment on as we move through this presentation. So let's talk very practical here. We don't want to be deep. Let's talk very practical. Every voice is precious. If you or a loved one has a chronic illness like diabetes or asthma, we're asking and we are demanding that you take care of yourself and wear a mask. And there's we received all kinds of, information about, do you need a mask? Do you not need a mask? I'd rather have it and not need it and need it and have it. And so we want to protect ourselves. So every voice is precious. So they talk about those that are high risk, and oftentimes they talk about senior citizens being at the top of the high risk, but that could be a child with asthma, right? That could be anyone from a child to a senior citizen. In that window, anyone from a child to a senior citizen, right, who has asthma, diabetes, or any other chronic illness, we're asking you to protect your house and be safe. Shamar, you want to take this one?
Yep, this one titled "Stand Together by Staying Apart." So even though we see social distancing norms starting to loosen and states starting to reopen, we are still asking you to protect your community and your loved ones by keeping a distance of 6 feet or more away from people who don't live with you. So if you're in the same house as somebody, less than 6 feet is fine. But if you meet someone on the street or see someone 6 feet, is still that standard. We still want to take the assumption that anyone could be carrying the virus, and this is a way to protect ourselves and to protect those around us, like the elderly and children.
Yeah. So again, folks, we were walking yesterday, and it was a slight inconvenience, but as people were coming close, some people moved over. We just had the little eyeball thing, and we moved over once, and later on another person let us through and they moved over. So we're just going to have to find new ways and new rhythms in doing what we're doing until we get to the end of this situation. Now, the next one is, these hands are powerful. Yeah. Wash your hands often to protect yourself and others. You would think that this would be a no-brainer, but again, we just want to remind even our youth, even our teens, because sometimes, they don't get the same messaging. So this applies to the young and the seasoned as well. Okay? So this is very important that we recognize how powerful our hands are and that we wash our hands. So I'm going to pause here and I'm going to see if we've got any folks who have taken a dive into those questions. So those questions that we asked, number one was, what do you see as some of the greatest barriers to our community in staying safe now? So we have the lack of sensitivity is a barrier. Thank you. As a stylist, I'm requiring clients to wear masks or they cannot be served. This is for traveling services and salons. So that's huge. The greatest barrier that I see right now is impatience. We must be wise in understanding that we can't put dollars, right, and cents before bodies and souls. Why? That's powerful, right? That's coming from Dr. Gibson. So look, we got some great barriers here, and we're going to be copying these. What are some of the greatest barriers you see to staying safe now? We've got some nurses on here as well. So we got washing hands, staying together, practicing safe social distancing, as well as protecting those who are in the high risk category. That's very, very, very important. Now, Shamar, you want to take us in on this? So now we're at this portion of our conversation. I'll pass you the ball.
Yep, so we're going to talk about the actions of Governor Whitmer and her interactions and the actions of our Congress here in this state. So just so everybody is clear, there are two distinctions here that I want to highlight. The first is that the stay-at-home order is in effect until May 15th. On May 15th is when the stay-at-home order will be lifted. And right now, those orders have been loosened a bit. So now landscapers, lawn service companies, plant nurseries, and bike repair shops and other businesses similar to that can go back to operating as long as they abide by safe social distancing rules. And I know it was a big deal that the gardening section of most grocery stores were closed, but now those are back open. A caveat to this is that the state of emergency is going to be in effect until May 28th. And if we refer back to the 1945's Emergency Powers Act, the governor has the authority to extend this order until the 28th. So the stay-at-home order may end on the 15th, but the state of emergency is still in effect until May 28th. So make sure we understand those two differences.
Yeah, and I think this is important that as you are leading organizations, that we have a responsibility to lead with great accountability.
Yep.
And so even though the stay-at-home order will be lifted, we're still under a state of emergency through the 28th. I think that we need to have a three-tiered plan on how we're going to begin to interact with each other in a safe manner until we get good information, right? And we get an acceptable vaccine. And we know there's a mad race by the pharmaceutical companies. First one across the finish line, I'm sure, will put a patent, or I'm sure they'll make a lot of money on it. But at the same time, some of you are pro-vaccine and some of you are against vaccine, okay? So what's next?
So right now we're going to look at where our state stands in terms of cases. So as of May 5th, there are 43,950 confirmed cases and a little bit over 4,100 deaths. And new confirmed cases this week are 447 with 44 new deaths. That is an 18%, almost 20% decrease in confirmed cases and almost a 30% decrease in confirmed deaths. So what we're seeing here and what you're seeing on the graph is that the results of our strict social distancing guidelines that we've been under since March are actually paying off. The light blue line that you see going through the darker blue bars, that is our 7-day average. So you see that we're approaching under our 7-day average. So if we continue like we are, we could come close to flattening our curve here in this state.
Yeah, and I think this is important because this is a very difficult, this is a sensitive issue. I'll put it this way. We have some that say, this is the argument, Shamari, that some are saying there are more people who will die and be impacted because the economy is down. There are more people that will be negatively impacted because schools are shut down, businesses are shut down. The economy will have a longer term effect. So let's turn this economy back on and let's gamble with whomever might get it. You know what I'm saying? And so the people who pass away are just, casualties that are necessary evil, so to speak. I tend to disagree with that. And again, we have to put ourselves before dollars, like he said, cents, and put souls and people before cents and dollars. So I want you all to understand why some people, as I was talking to some of my, and please try not to get offended if you can, as I was talking to folks in my circle, some were saying, well, hey, we on the west side of the state, we're not having that many cases. It's in Detroit. So why don't the governor just shut Detroit down and let the rest of the state just kind of go free? Yeah. A community don't function that way. You understand me? That's not how this works. And so, you can't make America great. You just trying to be great and everybody else getting flushed. And so, again, we got to begin to think more holistically and lead out of a different mentality. All right. So what is this showing us?
So this graph here is very similar to the last graph, except here we're looking at the New York metro area compared to the rest of the country. And we're seeing New York has some of the strictest social distancing guidelines and stay-at-home orders in the country because of the outbreak of cases that they had. And we see the rest of the country starting to open up, and we see that New York is actually, their curve is decreasing. You see the light red bars are showing their new cases, and the red line through them is their 7-day average. And you see the country just steady climbing as we begin to open up more. So you're seeing precautionary versus aggressively reopening. I do agree that a lot of things will start to reopen, but we have to do it in a progressive manner because, like Dr. Gibson said, like you said, it is very important that we put the lives of the American people before anything else. There is no economy if the majority of our citizens are sick, and then our healthcare system becomes overburdened. It just becomes a problem. So we have to approach this thing with caution, and this graph shows you exactly why.
Yeah, again, this is about leading. This is about understanding the numbers. A lot of times we lay back and we let Washington and we let somebody else give us the stats, but we can be statisticians, on our own. We can read numbers. All of us are educated. We know how to read some graphs. We know we can read for our own. And so what we're trying to do is just get information out to you to show you what's going on. So again, this is very, very, very important that you do not fall asleep during this time on the information. The next slide. So this is a worldview, and man, this really tells the story. And I know there's some, America has, X amount of millions of people, and we understand that. But look at what this graph is showing. That top line that you're seeing, that green line is who, Shamar?
That is us. That green line is us. And what I love to point out about this graph is I always like to go back. If you look in between March 1st and March 15th, if you recall, Italy was once the epicenter of this pandemic. I remember reading on the news that we need to pray for Italy. Italy is going through it, yada, yada. And that was around the time that Italy had 25,000 confirmed cases. So they went into strict lockdown mode. Like, lockdown wasn't a recommendation. It was a mandatory requirement. And then you see how Italy has progressed versus how we've progressed along with these other countries. And we have some of the most lackadaisical lockdown orders, and you see the results of that.
Yeah, so when the president first announced this couple of weeks ago, when we were in the heart of it, beginning, so to speak, he was like, yeah, the numbers were 100,000 people are going to pass away potentially, and then he reported we've done a good job. And so I'm like, well, what numbers are we looking at? I think we're at over 60,000 people have passed away, yep. Right? And so what numbers are we looking at to gauge if this is a good job? You know what I mean? Like, we know that one of the first cases of COVID-19 was reported in America in January of 2019. We know that the administration was given notice after notice after notice after notice after notice that there was a pending pandemic, a virus, et cetera, et cetera. So I just think sometimes as we head into an election year, a lot of times we don't really think about, our vote and how important voting is. And so I want to just pause here to talk a little bit about how important voting is, because who you support has a direct impact on how you live from a natural standpoint. So this is just a sad graph here. And I wonder if many of us were on the inside, could there have been something that we could have done differently that graph would have been like some of the other nations? So again, I just wanted to highlight that. What's our pathway forward? Now, last time we had this, we were laughing. A week ago, we went through, hydrochloroquine and all the different placebos and potential vaccines, and we talked about remdesivir. And as soon as we finished our show, 30 minutes later, there was this huge announcement about remdesivir. So now we're back again, and here we are with remdesivir. So what are we looking at here?
Yep. So like you said, last week we went through hydrochloroquine, and we went through convalescent plasma and remdesivir as possible treatments for COVID-19 in developing a vaccine. And we talked about the possibilities of these antiviral drugs. And then as soon as we got done, I was sitting there and popped up on my phone was a notification that the FDA had allowed an emergency use authorization of remdesivir. And what that means is if there's reasonable belief that this product, this antiviral drug, can help out in treating COVID-19, then they're going to use it. So right now they're going through the clinical and trial phases of this drug. And a study has been done, and it's shown that patients that are treated with remdesivir show a recovery time of 11 days as to 15 days without it. So it's looking promising, but again, this is not the end all be all. This is just where we're at in testing antiviral drugs to try and find and kind of create a vaccine. And what Dr. Fauci, if anyone's familiar with him, if not, do some research on Dr. Fauci. What he's saying is that by January, we should have a vaccine. But again, that's should. So everything is still up in the air, but this is just where they're at in their trial errors and things of that nature.
Yeah, this is good information, folks. And listen, if you have not, I want to repeat, if you have not done the research on Dr. Anthony Fauci, who's at the helm of these initiatives, you should go do some research on him. He's been around a long time, and he's got a lot of interest in a lot of different situations, which cause you to actually take a step back and ask yourself, what is really going on? So you need to look at the players, right? Look at the players and follow the money trail so that you can have a more broader perspective of what's actually going on and be able to filter what they're saying through the media. Okay, now what's interesting is in the midst of a lot of people losing their jobs, and we got high unemployment, we've got all this stimulus, there's a whole gang of people that are getting paid right now. And so when you look at remdesivir, Gilead Sciences, their stock ID is GILD. This was yesterday. They were trading at $77.91. Now, the stock market earlier, I looked, man, it looks like it's on the move. There's an uptrend today. Yeah. And so again, what's happening, what you are seeing, once again, is a crumbling of the middle class, that the wealthy are getting, they're getting more affluent. And then look at the poverty that's being created through leadership. Now, so I want you to go and look at Gilead Sciences. Hey, can you Google it, Shamari? What are they trading at right now? Can you Google that?
Right now. Yeah.
Yeah, Google it and see what they're trading at right now. GILD.
Yeah, stock price.
Yep.
We are looking at Gilead Science loading for me right now. It is trading at $78.28, so it's up a percentage point right now from the number that we have listed. So that's how fast it's on the move right now.
Yeah, so now we got GlaxoSmithKline. They're in the race for the vaccine. They were trading yesterday at $42.53. Where are they at today? GSK.
Yep. GlaxoSmithKline is trading at today. They're down a little bit. They are at $41.83 right now. So about a percentage, 1.3 percentage points down from yesterday.
All right, and then we got Pfizer. Like there's a whole family of these folks, right? Yep. What we're trying to do is just to say, hey, look at what's going on behind the scenes, how announcements drive the market, and just follow this. Follow this narrative is very important, right? So Pfizer was at $38.84, and we got one more before we go. Where are they? Where's Pfizer?
About the same as Glaxo. They're about a percentage point behind. So they dropped a little bit, but they're staying pretty steady right now.
All right. So, we are not giving you stock picks. We are not we're not experts and we're not giving you stock secrets. All we're saying is that as we are racing towards a vaccine, there are people who will capitalize on these opportunities as companies race for a vaccine. The government supports it. Did you not know that and if my research is correct, this is how this works, that the federal government actually subsidizes companies' research. So we pay for companies to do the research to find vaccines. Yep. Once the company finds the vaccine, they put a patent on that bad boy and then turn around and sell it to the American people at an astronomical price when we pay for the research. I mean, it's just crazy what goes on. It is just absolutely crazy when you begin to do the research on how this entire system that we all live in is just so unbelievably corrupt. Now, the thing that we showed you yesterday was this last one. There's something happening in the alternative meat market. Beyond Meat was trading at $117.08. Wendy's reported that they were having a meat shortage. They fixed it, but 16% increase. You need to follow these. You need to follow these narratives as they're going up and down between now and the end of the year. Now, let's end this today with our last slide on where do we go from here, just reminding you of some very practical points.
Absolutely. So, like we said, like we started off, our motto here, our theme for this entire talk is safety first. Regardless of what's going on in the socioeconomic world, we want you all to be safe. So continue to maintain safe social distancing guidelines, face masks, washing your hands, wiping down your counters as much as possible. We want you guys to stay safe. I cannot stress that enough. Secondly, stay up to date with the actions of our governor, the legislature, and healthcare experts, and also the federal government. Know what's going on in the country. Know what's going on in your area. Know what's going on in your county, so you can do your due diligence and practice best safety first practices, and also have a contingency plan just in case of a second wave of this virus. Experts are saying that we could get hit by a second wave of this virus this fall. I know it's bad news, and I know it's not what everyone wants to hear, but we should be ready just in case. We should be prepared for the worst, but we should also be expecting the best. So
let me interject
in place.
Let me interject right there. That's so important in what you're saying about this contingency plan. You and I should not be in the line if we have a second wave of this trying to buy toilet paper and food. We're talking about this right now, months ahead of time. So let me tell you, if you go to the websites where you can get like camping food, packed food for like a month, 3 months, 6 months, a lot of those sites are saying they're sold out. The food is already sold out, which means someone has already been thinking it. So go to some of these sites. There's like 4 or 5 major sites, and we'll put those in the comment section when we get off, where you can go and buy like food, like healthy food that will last a month, 6 months, right? They'll last much longer, but it's packed like military food. So that's a contingency plan. You should not be in line in September if we have a second wave of this. We're telling you right now, develop a contingency. The other thing that we wanted to highlight was be careful to not buy in to conspiracy theories. There are a lot of conspiracy theories, and there's some conspiracy theories that have some truth in them, right? So don't just listen to what you hear on social media and be like, oh, that's not real. So I was engaging this conversation, Shamari, with a friend of mine, and this is what he was saying. Well, hospitals are reporting they're over-reporting their deaths because they know if they assign a death to a COVID-19 death, then they're going to get federal assistance. The fact of the matter is somebody died, and so they use that argument to pour water on the impact of the current situation. And so I was like, well, I don't know about how the hospitals are reporting. We know that there's always issues with reporting. However, we do have a loss of life. We do have a health risk and a public health risk. So let's not lose sight of the subject. So if you are listening at these conspiracy theories, this is 5G deal, then go do some research on the 5G. You'll find out the military have been using 5G for a long time. You understand me? So what's different between what they've been using and what they're installing? And all these theories, you need to do your own trench work and study for yourself. And the last thing we'll say before we leave here, this is all a part of this discussion, is if you have a social security card, a driver's license, and a passport, why are they asking us to get a real ID? Now, I'm just asking questions. That's all I'm doing is asking questions. We were supposed to be required to have a real ID by the end of October 2020. I'm being told that because of COVID-19, they are now relaxing that until October 2021. So you need to be abreast on what's actually going on out here, and all of this ties together. So I'm going to pause. Shamari, we're going to pause right now, and what we're going to do is we're going to check the chat feature and let's just see, are there any questions that we could elevate to either healthcare professionals, public health experts, and scientists and the like. Are there any questions that you would like for us to write down and then bring back to you the answer? So please write that in the comment section. Write that in the comment section. Let's see here what we have. Yep. Do you have any questions? You can email us at admin@epworship.com, right? And what we will do, we will elevate your voice to the governor and to the governor's task force. So I really want to thank you all for joining us. There's so much that we need to talk about, but listen, the motto is safety first for our children and our seniors and everything in between. I would be remiss if I did not end this call and this show today, COVID-19 from a legislative lens, if we did not pause for the young man that was gunned down by 2 citizens in Georgia.
Yeah.
And this is the reason why we are having these shows, because racism and racial disparities, economic disparities still exist. In 1997, it was projected that African Americans would be a permanent underclass in America by 2018. And by 2053, they are projecting that African Americans will literally be non-existent in terms of wealth ownership. It will be zero by 2053. You cannot get millions of people to end up in a permanent underclass position without systems of oppression working and agreeing together legally to keep a group of people at the under position. We have real issues that we need to consider, and I'd like to take a moment of silence for our dear brother, and he will not be forgotten. So we're going to take a moment of silence and a pause for our dear brother and his family and our nation that needs God like never before. We need the real Jesus to stand up. So thank you for joining us, and we will be back next Wednesday with more. We're going to continue. We'll probably have another guest with us, and so we want to thank you for joining us. And again, email us if you have questions. Blessings to you.
Bye-bye, everybody.